A very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the channel. So here we're starting with the news analysis video for 10th of October. So we see that assembly elections have been announced in 5 key states in the month of November. So polls, they will be held in 5 states of Chhattisgarh, Mizoram, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Telangana. So that's there. And apart from this, here we can basically talk about the topic of simultaneous elections, one nation, one election. That's been again topic of debate for us. So herein, what are the positives and what are the negatives? So firstly, talking about what can be the positives if we go forward with the simultaneous elections. And before that also, what setup or what constitutional amendments would be required? And then there's another question ki simultaneous elections kaun se setup mein, whether parliamentary democracy or presidential democracy, किस में ज़्यादा effective रहेगा? Effective, why I are saying कि effective रहेगा? Because when we talk about the presidential form of government, उसमें it is considered कि it would be much more effective because जो issue है कि suppose अगर हमें इस सिस्टम को कंटिन्यू करना है एंड कोई स्टेट या सपोज जनरल इलेक्शंस में दी बीच में ही बिफोर द कंप्लीशन ऑफ 5 years देयर इज रेजोल्यूशन. सो उस बेसिकली उस चैलेंज को ओवरकम करने के लिए प्रेसिडेंशियल सिस्टम इज मच मोर इफेक्टिव. सो दैट इज वन आर्ग्यूमेंट. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दिस जो जनरल पॉइंट्स है, पॉजिटिव्स क्या हो सकते हैं? लॉजिस्टिक्स जो कॉस्ट है वो रिड्यूस हो जाएगी. वी विल बी हैविंग मोर टाइम, मोर फंड्स फॉर again paying more attention to growth and development. Apart from this, challenges may again वहाँ पे cost increase हो सकती है because when we talk about the EVM machines, so their lifetime is 15 years. So 15 years में they would be again used only for 3 times, and again we'll have to remanufacture them after 15 years. तो वो cost increase हो जाएगी. And negatives में apart from this we can have that challenge only कि आपको constitutional amendments इतनी ज्यादा करनी पड़ेंगी, या उनको आप कैसे basically ensure करोगे कि is that possible? हम constitutional amendment कर सकते नहीं कर सकते, and suitability for the current Indian setup. So these are some of the arguments. Pravesh, do you want to add up something here?
I think there is one argument in the negative side, and that is the voting power and the voting appeal of the common citizens will get reduced by the simultaneous election. The reason being, um, different types, different times when we see elections happening, sometimes in national level, sometimes in state. So obviously, all the governments tries to appeal the masses by providing the reforms, the socio-economic governance. But the time once the election is done for 5 years, the accountability will be reduced, and the people will not be having enough control in their hand to bring back and bring down the government.
That is one thing, but इसमें मतलब बैलेंस तरीके, मतलब वी कैन से कि कुछ फेवर में भी है, ये भी नहीं बोल सकते कि सिटीजन्स की पावर कंप्लीटली यहाँ पे विड्रॉ की जा रही है या कुछ ऐसा मेजर चेंज होगा. वोटिंग पावर्स उनके पास रहेगी, बट जो मेन हमें शिफ्ट देखने को मिल सकता है दैट वुड बी कि जो नेशनल इश्यूज हैं वो ज्यादा would be under consideration compared to the local level issues. So that is
let's
going
suppose let's suppose the national elections and the state elections are happening simultaneously. Let's suppose it is done. One party, once the elections are done, the government is formed everywhere. Now
Yes.
for the 5 years, if nothing is happening in the governance, what people have,
And that
they
is
actually.
I'm understanding that thing. If the government, once it is formed, so it is going to stay there for 5 years. Then the citizens basically do not have basically the powers or even the representatives, or when we talk about the even relevance and importance of the no confidence motion. So that basically in a way dilutes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move forward. The Supreme Court says that judge selection delays are not advisable. We've been seeing the current collegium system hai, or when we talk about judiciary versus the executive, so there is basically a tussle going on around this. Center wants that there needs to be one representative of the government when it comes to selection and appointment of the judges. And current system mein, again we're talking about the collegium system, so usme after the names are recommended by the Supreme Court after the collegium, so government has the final, they have to give the final say. So वहां पे हमें delay देखने को मिल रहा है. And we know about KNGAC, it was struck down in 2015. So again, that was on the basis ki if there is a government representative, so even that would lead to kind of a political interference in when it comes to the appointment of the judges. So current system में ही हम कुछ reforms कर सकते हैं. Like we can make the system much more transparent in order to, you know, कि जो information है suppose regarding selection of the judges, so herein we can have more transparency कि why those judges have been selected, तो वो reason दिया जा सकता है. The system can be made more transparent. So that can be one thing, and this is the same thing which has been highlighted by the Supreme Court ki delays, they are not advisable क्योंकि अभी currently there's been seeing massive delay. Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul said कि there is at times a lot of back and forth between the collegium and the government during the appointment process. तो कहीं ना कहीं this also is one of the factors when it comes to the rising number of pendency of the cases also. So कहीं ना कहीं ये judicial functioning को भी impact करता है. So
इसी के साथ मैं कहना चाहूंगा कि ये जो आपने रिफॉर्म्स बताए ये अच्छे रिफॉर्म्स हैं, लेकिन इसी के साथ हमें अब कोशिश करनी चाहिए कि हम नेशनल जुडिशियल अपॉइंटमेंट कमीशन जो बिल में लाया भी गया था उसको दोबारा से लाएं, उसको ग्राउंड्स रूट पर हम इस्टेब्लिश करें और जुडिशियल सर्विसेज क्रिएट करें.
yes, national
जैसा कि
level can have judicial
जैसा कि
services. So you are
जुडिशरी
basically supporting the creation of NJAC, right?
yes, I'm supporting that.
So
Why I'm supporting
yeah,
that? Let me just give the reason. In the year 2000, the National Commission to Review the Working of the Constitution was had given its recommendation, and in that, it is clearly cited that India is the only country in the entire world which is having a separation in the judges selection where the executive is not able to play a potent role. But in US, Switzerland, all the major democratic countries, we are having a coherence where the judges are having the executive is having a good say in the selection of the judges. We are also having judicial services, and one of the important reason has been cited why we should create for the judicial services because of the pendency of the cases. So the pecuniary interest cases, the small cases will be dealt by the judicial officers in their jurisdiction, so that the higher courts like the Supreme Court, High Court, their burden will get reduced. Number one. Number two, apart from these recommendations, there is also one there is also one recommendation by this commission as well as by the by some ARC that judiciary is also not immune from the corruption. There are huge number and huge incidences of corruption, nepotism, and biasness in the judiciary, in the selection, in the judgment also. So we cannot completely neglect that executive is bad. We should go for a coherence and a rational idea where the judges also have a say, like they have a say in the judicial activism when they interfere into the executive part to frame the policy. On the similar lines, the executive should also be given the role to actually have a say in the selection process and to streamline the judiciary in India.
okay, so these are the reasons. So herein I have one concern कि when you were citing the reason कि advanced countries में USA में executive have a say when it comes to judicial appointments, तो वो कितना suitable रहेगा, to what extent that would be, having an impact या कितना practical रहेगा for the Indian model, that needs to be looked into. And we can't go by this reason according to me कि India is the only country where executive is not having any say in terms of the judicial appointment. So हमें India के interest को consider करना है. Even if we are the only country doing, or we are the only country having a unique system in judicial appointments, so we can go forward. जो हमारा current system है, we can go with the reforms as you were highlighting कि judicial में भी corruption है in terms of appointment. तो कैसे current system को हम और transparent बना सकते हैं so that people and at the same time executive also have more trust in this judicial appointment process.
Actually, the judiciary always provides a stance that under the directive principle, it is mentioned that there should be a separation between the executive and judiciary.
Yes.
But that directive should also be understood by the judiciary at the time when they are entering into the policy formulation. So I'm not criticizing the judiciary, but I'm just saying, as you mentioned, that Indian aspect में reform क्या होने चाहिए. तो Indian aspect में reform तो हो रहे हैं, लेकिन Indian aspect में इस अवधारणा को change करने की जरूरत है कि हम आपसे बिल्कुल भी इंटरफेयर नहीं चाहते हैं. अगर इंटरफेयर आप करते हैं तो एग्जीक्यूटिव को भी अलाउ कीजिए कि ट्रांसपेरेंट और फेयर तरीके से जजेस का सिलेक्शन हो. और दोनों ही, अगर रिफॉर्म होगा ही नहीं, इंडिया के एस्पेक्ट की बात आएगी ही नहीं. अगर रिफॉर्म होगा तो ही इंडिया के इंटरेस्ट की बात आएगी. तो पहले हम कुछ करें और उसके बाद हम इंडिया के इंटरेस्ट उसी टाइम हम देखें इंडिया के इंटरेस्ट मीट हो रहे हैं नहीं हो रहे, तो हो सकता है कुछ हो जाए, अदरवाइज दिस प्रॉब्लम इज गोना सस्टेन।
यस। सो इसमें आपने बोला कि जैसे जुडिशरी भी पॉलिसी फॉर्मुलेशन में इंटरवीन करते हैं, तो रेयर केसेस होते हैं जो हम बोलते हैं जुडिशियल एक्टिविज्म के बारे में। सो दीज आर रेयर इंस्टेंसेस जहाँ पे
Okay,
इट
so
इज
if we are saying in 2013, the CJ Shri S. Balakrishnan, he has given the theory of the judicial restraint because of the excess of the judicial activism which is seen by the judiciary.
तो वो उस टाइम पीरियड की बात कर रहे हैं ना, अभी करंट टाइम पीरियड में तो आप नहीं बोल सकते, आप इस चीज को सपोर्ट कर सकते हो कि अभी जुडिशरी अडेयर्स टू सो मच ऑफ जुडिशियल एक्टिविज्म, या यहाँ पे भी समवेयर काइंड ऑफ वी आर सीइंग too much interference in policy formulation by judiciary. Can you support this thing right now? Because it will be varying from time period to time period.
That is what I'm saying. I'm not telling something specific about the time. I'm telling about the root cause.
Okay, chalo, let's move forward. Okay, then Nobel Prize in Economics 2023, it goes for the research on workplace gender gap. So gender inequality at workplace is the main, we can say the theme of the work, which has got the recognition, the Nobel Economics Prize for 2023. So it goes to Claudia Golden. So the Nobel Prize for Economics awarded to the Harvard University professor Claudia Golden, and for research that is advance the understanding of gender gap in the labor market. So it is just the third woman to win the prize out of 93 economics laureates. This is one big achievement. And explaining the gap, so her research does not offer solutions, but it allows the policymakers to tackle the entrenched problem. इसमें she explains the source of gap क्या है, how it's changed over time, कैसे it has basically the trend has changed, how it varies with the stage of development also, and therefore there is no single policy through which obviously we can address this gender gap. तो एक single policy के ऊपर हम 100% rely नहीं कर सकते. So it's a complicated policy question, because if you don't know the underlying reason, a certain policy is not going to work. Obviously, it is important to target the reason which has led to that problem. So, however, by finally understanding the problem, calling it by the right name, we will be able to pave a better route for forward. So, these are some of the things which have been highlighted under her research. So her analysis also is a woman's role in the job market and the pay share receives, they aren't influenced just by the broad social and economic changes. So they're also determined partly by her individual decisions about, for example, how much education to get. So individual level pe bhi jo factors hain, unke basis pe bhi again the pay, it varies, and solely we can't put it on the social and the economic changes for this thing. And often jo young girls hai, they make decisions about the future work by looking at their own mother's participation each generation, learning from the success and the failures of the preceding generation. So even household level pe bhi is cheez ka impact hota hai on the younger generation. So the process of evaluating the prospects as time changes helps explain why change in the labor market gender gaps has been so slow. So India की अगर हम बात करें, definitely इस चीज पे हमारा focus आ रहा है. We are shifting, we are basically taking this into consideration and trying to address कि कैसे हम इस चीज को address कर सकते हैं as we talk about the woman-led development. So even this is one of the sub part of this. And higher, when we talk about ki higher levels pe ya advanced level of employment pay, we see that we talk about the glass ceiling ki ek certain level ke baad we are seeing very less number of women. So workplace pay, even in judiciary, yesterday also we took up ki CJ was saying ki by 2040 we might expect, or we expect 50 women judges and 50 male judges to that. So different areas में इस चीज की बात की जा रही है. And again, as यहाँ पे highlight किया गया, एक single policy is not the solution to this problem. So Pravesh, do you want to add up something to this topic?
No, we can continue.
Okay. So mental health issues and the informal workers. So let's talk about the connectivity. So herein, a study by the International Labour Organization says that 15% of working age adults globally, they live with a mental disorder. On the one hand, the decent work influences your mental health in a positive way, while on the other, जो unemployment है या unstable या precarious employment है, workplace discrimination है, poor and particularly unsafe working environments hai, they can pose a risk to a worker's mental health. So accordingly, that's how even your mental health gets impacted. So workers जो low paid employment में work कर रहे हैं, jobs में work कर रहे हैं, they are unrewarding या insecure jobs में involved हैं, working in isolation, they are more likely to be exposed to the psychosocial risk, thus compromising their mental health. So Indian experience की अगर हम बात करें तो India में informal workforce, it accounts for more than 90% of the working population. So this area becomes very important for us. So these workers, they often operate without the regulatory protection. They're working in unsafe working environments, endure long hours. They have little access to even social security and financial protections, and they suffer high uncertainty, deep precarity, and they face discrimination. So all of which further undermines their mental health and limit the access to mental health care. So mental health care सर्विसेज की एक्सेस फर्स्टली प्राइमरी लेवल पे, ग्राउंड लेवल पे इंक्रीज करने की जरूरत है. सो ऑब्वियसली वहाँ पे हमारा जो प्राइमरी हेल्थ केयर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, सेटअप है, दैट कैन वर्क. And gender disparities, they are also stuck at the same time. So अभी हम ये बात ही कर रहे थे. And then according to UNDP, unemployment, poor quality employment, they've consistently been detrimental to the mental health. So different data studies यहाँ पे हमारे पास available है. Then we also see India will also become an aging society in 20 years with no apparent social security roadmap for this rapidly growing group that is especially vulnerable to the poor mental health. So even when we say changing demographics, what changes do we expect 10 years down the line? So we see that old age population is also almost going to get doubled in almost 1 decade. So वहाँ पे भी the mental health issue is a concern for us. So we need to be even prepared to deal with that old age population as well. So social security benefits informal workers को available नहीं है. So again कैसे we can ensure कि social security benefits उनको available किए जाएं, so that again ये minor areas जो यहाँ पे identify किए गए हैं, जो causes हैं of mental health problems, उनको address करने की जरूरत है. And here we talk about M generics. They have seen their funding slashed. So again, this is also cause of concern. And NCRB reports that 26% of people who died by suicide, they were the daily wage earners. So employment guarantee programs can indeed improve the mental health outcomes. Social security can be promotional, aiming to augment their income, aiming to forestall their economic distress, and being protective, aiming to ensure relief from the external shocks. So Code on Social Security 2020 shows how glaring issues concerning the social security of India's informal workforce still remains unheeded. So while India should universalize this social security, current code does not state this as a goal. So this can be one part of reforms that can be implemented. So the care also needs drastic improvement. जब हम बात करते हैं, healthcare sector can be important here. So firstly, most of the people are even also, unaware about that they are undergoing a mental stress, a mental health problem, and इससे related जो social stigma है, that is another problem, which is again a barrier here. So ये कुछ social factors हैं जो negatively impact करते हैं. जब हम budget reallocation की बात करते हैं for the mental health, it has over focused on the digital mental health program. So how herein also the digital mental health program can again have a wider impact. World Mental Health Report 2022, it also observed addressing mental health involves strengthening the community-based care and people-centered, recovery-oriented, and human rights-oriented care. So these are the key words. So there's an urgent need for proactive policies to improve the mental health. Recognition and action needs to be taken on that. And again, this needs to be aligned with the SDG goals also, especially SDG 3 on good health and well-being, and SDG 8, which is about decent work for all or for the economic growth.
I think, I think two or three steps also we can take in this area. Number one, the India's informal workforce accounts for 90% of the working population. So when we have this data, so this data should be used to first convert this informal workforce into the formalization, into the formal workforce. Along with that, as far as the health is concerned, not only the mental health but the overall health concern should be done by providing the ESIC facilities to these labor forces. In this, we can also have a provision for their labor card, which should be aligned with their health card. So both the purpose will be served with this data management. Apart from that, the robust functioning of these hospitals should also be done so that they can incorporate a large number of people and they can provide them medical relief and medical attention. Apart from that, the third step which I can say here is that their their income should be streamlined so that uh, a basic and a minimum amount should get so that they can live their life with uh, you know with enough standard, and they can actually improve their mental and social security.
So we can say that their income needs to be indexed according to inflation changes.
Not inflation, I'm saying, but there should be a standardization of their income. That is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like for an example, we have labors, right? So according to labor associations, according to the government, it is said that 800 is for uh, you know skilled labor and 600 is for unskilled labor. So that's what I'm saying.
So with the festive cheer, we are seeing here urban consumer confidence is at 7-year peak. So in September 2023, 36% consumers said that the economy improved. This is the highest for any September after 2016. So confidence boost, definitely it is going to play an important role when it comes to the jump in the consumer demand for different goods and services. And right now, as we say, festival cheer, so that is going to play a very important role during the short time period. So here in chart 1 shows the respondents' view on the general economic situation. So what do they think about the general economic situation of India? So here we see economic situation improved has been shown in the blue colored graph. So from 2020, when we saw the COVID-19 pandemic, so at that point of time, economic situation started worsening. It worsened and it started, basically it has been on the downside only. And after that only, from that time period only, when the economic situation was worsening, the consumer confidence has been on the rise. So it is at 36%, and is the economic situation worsened, people believe 44%. So herein the number of people who believed कि COVID-19 के बाद और 2020 के बाद अगर economic situation worsen हुई है, तो 44% believe कि economic situation has worsened, and people who think it has improved is 36%. So this is almost, we now expect this to cross each other. Then chart number 2, it plots the respondents' view on the employment opportunities. So employment opportunities, maybe people that are showing confidence, 34% of the population believes कि employment opportunities improve हुई हैं. Income levels worsened. इसमें भी the number stands at 25%. So we are basically seeing more number of people having more confidence about the economic performance. Price level worsened, 91% people believe कि price level और खराब हुआ है. Definitely that's true also, because again inflation is a current challenge also. Spending levels worsened, so 74% believe कि spending levels worsened. Again, this is an impact of COVID-19 only. So overall, we see key consumer confidence remains strong. So that is an important role when we talk about even the overall economic growth in terms of the consumer demand for different goods and services. So state of India's scheduled areas, very important topic. How are such areas firstly identified? कैसे करते हैं इनको, govern कैसे किया जाता है, कौन से different acts हैं, schedules हैं, committees बनाए गए, the Bhuria committee 1995 उनकी क्या recommendations रही, how have the provisions of the again PESA Act जो है 1996 वो कैसे change हुए when it comes to the governance of the scheduled areas. तो PESA Act बहुत important है. Overall we need to be again clear with the पैसा एक्ट के क्या इम्पैक्ट रहे हैं और कहाँ हमें इम्प्रूवमेंट करने की जरूरत है इन पैसा एक्ट, सो एज टू मेक इट मच मोर इफेक्टिव एंड रेलेवेंट टू द करंट एंड द चेंजिंग नीड्स एंड सिचुएशन. So firstly, let's understand the population. So homelands of the tribal communities कौन सी states में कौन से region में ज़्यादा concentrated हैं. So the maps, they shows the geospatial representation schedule area in India, and schedule area they cover around 11.3% of India's land area, and they have been notified in 10 states. So president holds the exclusive power to declare any area as a scheduled area. So this is one fact. So fifth schedule area district wise, you can see most of them are concentrated in Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, in Odisha, you get it in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Gujarat also, and few areas are there also in Himachal Pradesh at the same time. Six schedules, they are in again 4 states. These are the 3 northeastern states. Talk about Meghalaya, Assam, Mizoram, and Tripura. And then non-scheduled areas, these are the gray colored areas. So this is how the population is distributed. And here in this map is showing us the geospatial representation of the full and the partial scheduled area district. So full and partially, fully, partially, this you can again understand similar areas may we can say concentrated. So scheduled areas hote kya? This we have seen scheduled area India ka 11% of land area cover karte hai. They have been notified in 10 states. So these are the 10 states. And despite persistent demands by the Adivasi organizations, villages, they have been left out in 10 states with scheduled areas and other states. So ye kuch again demands of the Adivasi organizations to get this status. As a result, 59% जो India की ST population है that remain outside the purview of Article 244. So right now also 59% of India's scheduled tribe population remain outside the purview of Article 244, and they are denied the rights under the laws like which are applicable to the scheduled areas, including the rights to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition and Rehabilitation Resettlement Act of 2013, and another act is Biological Diversity Act of 2002, and definitely we have the PESA Act also. So 1995 में Bhuria Committee appoint की गई. They recommended provisions for the extension of the PESA Act to scheduled areas. Recommended including जो villages again demand कर रहे थे of being included under the scheduled areas, but this is yet to be done. So 1995 we had the recommendations, but this is still not implemented. So absence of viable ST majority administrative units, that has been the standard bureaucratic response. An argument that has also been used to demand the denotification of the other scheduled areas, where STs they are now a minority due to the influx of the non-tribal individuals. So, ये कुछ changes हुए हैं over time, and this is the reason given कि ST majority administrative units, that has been the reason, the argument which is coming from the administrative side. So, scheduled areas govern कैसे किए जाते हैं? तो President of India notifies scheduled areas. So, this is the power with the President of India. States the scheduled areas they need to constitute एक ट्राइबल एडवाइजरी काउंसिल उनको सेटअप करनी पड़ती है जिन स्टेट्स में scheduled areas are there, and उसमें when you talk about the composition, so 20 ST members are part of that tribal advisory council. So they will advise the governor. So ये जो tribal advisory council बनाई जाएगी, it has the power, and वो governor को advise करते हैं on matters which are referred to them regarding the ST welfare. So governor will then submit उस report को every year to the president regarding the administration of the scheduled areas. So that's how basically these areas are being governed. So national government can give directions to the state also regarding the administration of scheduled areas. So directions national government भी issue कर सकती है. Governor can repeal or amend any law which is enacted by the parliament or the state legislative assembly in its application to scheduled areas of that state. So accordingly, that's how they can be amended and then implemented. So यहाँ पे जो power है that lies with the governor of the state. So governor can also make regulations for the scheduled areas specifically to prohibit or restrict the transfer of the tribal land or by among the members of the STs, and regulate the allotment of the land also. So different powers है जो governor के पास है, tribal advisory council के पास different powers हैं, president के पास different powers हैं, national government के पास different powers है. So it's important to understand कि क्या क्या powers है and how things work out. So it was only when the parliament it enacted the provisions in various laws which are applicable to scheduled areas, when we saw कि जो PESA Act है 1996, that this with the intent of the constitution and constituent assembly. Actually it came alive 1996 में state panchayat laws had empowered the elected panchayat bodies, rendering the gram sabhas moot. So PESA empowered gram sabhas to exercise substantial authority through direct democracy, and it stated कि जो structures हैं the higher level they do not assume the powers and authority of the gram sabha. So who decides? Scheduled area decide कौन करते हैं? So fifth schedule areas, it confers the powers exclusively to the president to declare any area to be scheduled area. 2006 में सुप्रीम कोर्ट हेल्ड कि आइडेंटिफिकेशन जो scheduled areas हैं वो एक एग्जीक्यूटिव फंक्शन है, and that it does not possess expertise to scrutinize the empirical basis of the same. So ये पावर नहीं है, but again जो एग्जीक्यूटिव फंक्शन है that is identification of the scheduled areas. तो यहाँ तक ये एग्जीक्यूटिव फंक्शन है. So 2016 में another judgment we had from the Jharkhand High Court which dismissed a challenge to the notification of the schedule area because जो SC population थी they were less than 50% in some blocks. So यहाँ पे भी जो court था it observed कि declaration of scheduled area is within the exclusive discretion of the president. So ये तरीके से discretionary power है of the president. So
मानसी, one
yes.
thing है,
Hello.
आपको क्या लगता है कि मतलब क्या रेलिवेंस है इस चीज की कि प्रेसिडेंट जो है शेड्यूल एरिया डिक्लेयर कर रहे हैं? मतलब स्टेट गवर्नमेंट भी सोशो इकोनॉमिक गवर्नेंस इन एरियाज में कर सकती है, प्रेसिडेंट को ही कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में इस तरीके की पावर मतलब क्यों स्पेसिफिकली दी गई होगी? क्या रीजन होगा?
यहाँ पे इफ वी टॉक अबाउट अगर स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को पावर दी जाए तो समवेयर इट वुड लीड टू पॉलिटिकल इंटरफेरेंस.
कैसे?
It might become a populist agenda when it comes to elections in different states. So this can be one of the main reasons why again president has been given this power. And apart from this, जब हम again बात करते हैं इंडिया के federal setup की, so herein also president is very important representative. So I might think this might be the reason. If you have any other reason, you can cite that.
I think this power of giving special status in the form of schedule area is given to the president because in the directives also we have this provision to take special care for the vulnerables. So number one, the identification of these vulnerables if in different states the state governments will be having power to to declare these areas. So the challenge will come of identification. In some states, affiliation of one tribe.
How it can be a problem in identification?
That is what I'm telling. Let's suppose in Manipur we have problems between these two mighty and the another one tribes.
Kuki tribe.
Now one is Kuki tribe. So one is in majority and one is in minority. But the some one community is demanding reservation, the state government is saying that we can give, but another tribe is having problems with that, and which finally led to the violence in the state. So because of these kinds of apprehensions, to prevent any kind of tussle between these tribes itself and between the state and the tribe, the president has been given this power to provide a fairness in selection, in identification of the schedule area, and then to provide relief.
तो यहाँ पे तो इनिशियली स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का रोल नहीं था ना, वो तो हाई कोर्ट ने बोला था कि जो मेजॉरिटी कम्युनिटी है, मीठी कम्युनिटी, उनको एसटी स्टेटस दिया जाना चाहिए.
That is an example I am giving. I am not saying कि इन यहीं पे ऐसा हुआ है. I am just saying कि ऐसा स्टेट भी कर सकती है.
हाँ, वही मैं कह रही थी कि पॉपुलिस्ट, इट कैन बिकम अ पार्ट ऑफ पॉपुलिस्ट मेजर्स बाय द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. सो पॉलिटिकल इंटरफेरेंस हो सकती है इन अ वे, एंड अगेन वो जो मेन मोटिव है उससे वी कैन डाइग्रेस फ्रॉम दैट.
Yes.
So what is multimodal artificial intelligence? Why it is important? So in multimodal systems, users, they can engage with artificial intelligence in several ways. So if AI systems, they are to be as close as likeliness of the human mind is possible, so natural course would have to be multimodal. So past couple of years, we have seen a stream of such AI systems being released. So a new race opens up, another good old tech race shapes up. Leading AI companies they're already playing the catch up. We are having ChatGPT makers, OpenAI. They have announced different models, ChatGPT 3.5, GPT-4 models to study images and analyze them in the words. While its mobile applications, there have been speech synthesis to that people can have full-fledged conversations with a chatbot. So these are multimodal kind of AI technology in the form of, again, कि आप type करके information search कर सकते हो. You can have just the pictures, so you can get the AI technology to have a proper, essay or an explanation or description of an image, and then you have having a kind of conversation kind of a thing is also being released. So how does multimodality work? So it itself isn't a novel thing, but the past couple of years we have seen multiple multimodal AI systems being released. So these are certain examples of that, like Dale Point E, upon which ChatGPT's vision capabilities are based. Applications kya hai? So even businesses may student level pe, education level pe, we are having multiple applications of these things. And medicine, they are inherently multimodal. Apart from this, perform speech translations, that is another obvious segment for multimodality. So this is like certain examples, you just can remember them. Apart from this, jo main important cheez hai, how ethically we can ensure AI is being used. So it's a small update. Urban unemployment rate drops to 6.6% in the first quarter. So for men, it decreased from 7% to 5.9%, and for women, it decreased from 9.5 to 9.1. So basically, one takeaway that we can take is comparatively, women may unemployment rate is higher in the urban areas compared to the men. Labor force participation rate in the urban areas, that has increased from 47.5 to 48.8%. So herein labor force participation rate में भी जब हम बात करते हैं, so right now the women's labor force participation rate is at 30%. So वहाँ पे भी again we are focusing कि how we can ensure that कि it increases. So these are some of the important dynamics related to unemployment. So ICMR, it is going to conduct studies to develop solutions so that हम कैसे childhood undernutrition को address कर सकते हैं. So Indian Council of Medical Research would be undertaking studies in order to get certain solutions, I would say more apt solutions for this. So we are seeing the ICMR team to start a multi-center research study so as to assess effects of providing appropriate take-home foods in combination with the behavioral change intervention to ensure good complementary feeding practice that is nutritionally optimum to meet the young children's nutrition needs. So ये तीन चीजें यहाँ पे highlighted हैं. Challenges की अगर हम बात करें, listing of the challenges in the complementary feeding, ICMR, it is maintained कि there are often suboptimal practices follow की जा सकती है, की जाती हैं, I should say, including inadequate quality of and quantity of food. So even food adulteration is one of the problems, poor feeding practices. So herein we can again go forward with awareness generation about the importance of the feeding practices for the mothers, and complementary feeding being initiated too early or too late, that is also a problem, and being provided in quantities that are too smaller or that is infrequent. So take home ration में even यहाँ पे food fortification that can also play an important role in improving the nutritional intake of the children. So these are some of the areas that ICMR is going to look into and conduct a proper study and come out with proper solutions to deal with this thing.
I think in the PDA supply, we can include some more quality ingredients rather than just focusing on the cereals. For an example, in some states, we have the facilities for the egg also, which is provided to the poor, especially in the schools, it is being provided. And on the similar lines, like the ICMR is doing on the undernutrition. So the ICAR, Indian Council of Agricultural Research, should also come to prevent the malpractices done in the agriculture fields in the name of spreading the fertilizers on the crops.
Yeah. Okay, so next we are going to continue in part 2 of this session. So you can join us there.